So the processing and the uploading of the images is all complete now. They just sent me an email on my personal account. I looked at it, opened the map, and it automatically uploaded everything to this program. So basically all I'm doing now is going onto DroneDeploy again. Okay, if I click on the cherry farm now, okay, you can start to see. All right, see how this is an overlay, and you can see the differences between the Google satellite image versus our images with the drone. Okay, and you can see how they've sort of overlapped each other. Okay, so if I zoom in a bit, okay, once that uploads properly, okay, you can start to see the detail. Okay, so you can see all the rows, you can see the cherry trees, you can see even the irrigation piping in between, all the way through. Okay, so it's a pretty good run through. All right, you can see obviously the boundary and everything as well, and also our section here that we want to be fixing. Okay, and you guys will be obviously going through and planning, what you think should be in this section here. All right, so just a bit of an overview of the whole program itself. Okay, if you go on the side here, okay, there's a section here for plant health. If I tick that, okay, everything starts to change color. So basically what it's telling us here is anything that's highlighted in green is obviously healthy. Okay, and that's just using the RGB camera. Okay, so it's just a standard camera. Whatever is reflecting green obviously is good for us. Whatever is red, okay, is obviously not alive or anything like that. Okay, so what we're interested in is obviously the areas that are green. Okay, that's telling us that the plants here or the trees are all good. Okay, so if you were to do this over, you're doing this to look at your crop, okay, you could then work out if there's some that might be dying off a little bit quicker, okay, than others, or they might not be growing as much as some of the other trees. Okay, you could use this to track how well your plants or your trees are progressing. Okay, then you can make changes to how you go about your, fertilizing or maintenance to the farm. Okay, so that's that. Okay, and you can definitely use this as a part of your project if you need to. All right, if I untick it, they'll take it away. If I go to elevation, okay, so the parts that are in red, they are the higher points. Okay, so obviously that's why the trees have been picked up here, because obviously they're quite high off the ground. Okay, and then the parts that are like your dark blue, obviously are the lower points. Okay, so one thing that you probably would have picked up from the video is that this section up here is quite high. Okay, so coming off the road up to the shed and the house there, quite high. Everything else is actually quite low. Okay, it's almost like a little valley all the way through here. Okay, that goes uphill this way, uphill that way, and uphill this way as well. Okay, so gives us an idea of how you may want to plan for your irrigation, if that's what you're going to do for your section here. Okay, so for example, I know this is a pump. Okay, a water, they've got like the storage system here with irrigation. Basically, the pump pumps all the water uphill, okay, and then feeds all of these trees through here. Okay, I suppose if you were planning a system like this, however, you wanted to have everything up the top, okay, obviously you could use gravity to go through and to water the plants and whatever else. So that might be something that you want to be looking into for your project and your report. Okay, but it's all there ready for you if you want to have a look at that. All right, so if I untick it, okay, so we're back to where we were before. If I go to 3D, the model section up here, sorry, it may take a little bit longer to load up. Okay, so that's loaded up now. As you can see, it's all a 3D model now. Okay, so just from using the images from the drone, it's actually turned everything here into a 3D model. Okay, so you can see what I was talking about before. Okay, up here is quite high, okay, where the main road is, and as you go down the hill here, okay, it's all quite deep, quite low. Okay, even small details in terms of like the actual trees themselves. Okay, you can see the little mounds on here. So that's pretty cool. You can actually see where the individual trees are if you need to use that for whatever reason. Okay, and also the trees that's picked up along the edges. Okay, now as you can see in terms of like the detail, oops, sorry, zoom that around. In terms of the detail on the sides of the tree isn't great. It sort of droops all the way down, doesn't look quite clean, but I suppose if you were looking at doing a 3D model for a building or something like that, you'd change obviously the angle that the drone's taking images, obviously a lot lower to be able to get the detail from the sides. Okay, we basically took bird's eye views of a lot of the stuff, so the side profile of the model isn't going to be great. Okay, but overall, it's pretty cool. It's got everything on there that you need. You get a really good idea of how this actual farm looks. Okay, so like I was saying before, this area here, you can see that there's a fence all the way along. Okay, and that's where all the farm animals stay. Okay, these piles here, okay, you can see them scattered along the property. They're basically the old cherry trees that they had planted. Okay, but they either weren't producing or they weren't, to the right size or whatever else that they needed. So they've actually ripped down a lot of them because they want to start producing these again. Okay, so that will be probably going on in these sort of areas here. Okay, but this area here is up to us to now plan and to create some sort of plan for the farmer to be able to hopefully run by when he decides to start or putting in his own little section in that part of the farm. Okay, so that's something that you need to think about. So if we go back to the map, right now on the map, if we scroll down a little bit, okay, there's a few tools here that we can start to use. So I'm going to zoom in into this section here that we're going to be using. Okay, so this whole section here. Okay, there's a few things you could do. Alright, so for example, we could use area. Okay, so it'll tell you in hectares, the surface area. Okay, so if you ever needed to use that for your planning, you could use that. Alright, I'm just going to delete that. Okay, let's go back. Alright, in terms of distance, you can actually organize your rows, and you can kind of see already where the previous rows were, okay, which actually makes it a little bit easier for you guys in terms of your planning. So for example, I'm just going to grab one of those rows roughly where they were. So from there, I'm going to run it along to there. Okay. All right, that line I just created, it does tell you how long that line runs for. Okay, so in terms of your planning, especially when you're working out how many plants per row that you want, okay, this is a really good tool to start using. Okay, you could also, in terms of the distancing between, okay, you could do stuff like that as well to work out how far that distance is between your rows. So if I go through and do another row now, okay, that one there I can just drag to get to the other one. Okay, and that starts to tell you how far everything is. Okay, if you want to do counting, okay, so this is important, I suppose, when you're starting to plan your property as well. Okay, you could, well, you probably want to start from one side over here. Let me just sort of. Here we go. All right, so you might want to have one there. The next plant you might have a little bit over. Okay, but you want to obviously measure to work out how far it is. Okay, I know Julio, the farm owner, he has mentioned that basically he would do 2 meters apart in terms of the plants. Okay, then has about a 4-meter gap between the rows. Okay, so that's the guide that he sort of uses. It's up to you whether you want to use that guide as well, or you could look up that production document that I've sent you. Okay, and you can have a look in there and see what other people do, or other states do, and that sort of stuff. Okay, but it's completely up to you how you want to do it. He did mention that back in the day they used 5 meters in between rows. Oh, sorry, 2 meters in between rows and 1 meter along. Okay, the problem with that is when I had a tractor, to get in between your rows when they're only 2 meters wide, okay, it does make it quite difficult. Okay, so the reason why they're doing 4 meters now is that you can get a tractor easily through here. Okay, and they also prune all the cherry trees down. Okay, so it doesn't require ladders and all that sort of stuff. You can actually go through and be able to do all the work as you need it. Okay, so in terms of time management, it does make your life a lot easier. All right, so with this counter, you go through and mark it all out. Okay, but yeah, make sure that you're going through and actually measuring using that distance tool. Okay, roughly, yeah, how much of a gap you need for every single one. Okay, so basically what you would have is by the end of this whole section here, okay, you would have all your rows. So I'm just going to do one very roughly. Obviously you guys would do this with a lot more care. All right, I'm just going to trace over some of those previous lines just for the example. Now just remember, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Try and get it as close as you can, all right, to what you're planning to do. I understand it's not the easiest program to go through and do everything perfectly, but as long as you get the idea and you try as hard as you can to get your distancing right and work out how many plants and stuff that you have, okay, this will be a lot easier. All right, so let's say, for example, this was done. I worked out how many plants I have, how many rows I have, and everything like that. Okay, because even this section here, you know, I can just delete these as I go along. Okay, and if you wanted to, you could even run your rows all the way along. Okay, they don't have to be exactly how I did them. Okay, you could have the row that runs from there all the way to the top. Okay, all right, so let's just say, like I said before, if this was all done, okay, what you would do for your report, okay, is obviously in the report you want to be talking about what you have actually done, okay, and sort of reflecting on that in your report and saying, well, I chose this amount of rows because of this reason. I chose this amount of plants in or per row because of this reason. Okay, so to do this, you could just use your snipping tool. So down here in the search bar, I just write snip. Okay, then up here, I can just go new. Okay, then just trace over the area that I want to take a snip of. Okay, then I can save that and put it into my report. Okay, so whatever you want to use for this program in your report, quite simple, just do a snipping tool, chuck it straight in. Okay, so you can go save it and then put it in. All right, so if I go back, okay, there is volume there. I'm not going to go through that and location, but you guys can play around with it if you really want to. But basically, that's everything. Okay, so just remember you've only got a 2-week trial. Okay, so you need to be able to do this within that 2 weeks. Okay, so make sure you allow plenty of time. Go through, get this done properly, get the snipping tool done, put it in your report. Okay, then you can start talking about it.